Hello friends, my name is Abhay Kumar and today I am going to talk about the concept of Sharia, fiqh, that is jurisprudence and Muslim personal law. Sometimes these issues get confused and you have also heard this debate that a group of people say that a Muslim personal law board is based on divine law and that cannot be changed, and that law has been there for time immemorial. This is the position of largely All India Muslim Personal Law Board, an organization of Muslims which was formed in 1972-73, and basically this organization looks at the Muslim personal law and also the different laws being enacted by the government, and this body tries to protect the family law or the personal law of Muslims, and it also opposes any kind of intervention in that personal laws, saying that it is the matter of culture and religious belief of Muslims, and since this All India Muslim personal law are based on Sharia, it is based on the holy book, the Quran and Hadith, so that cannot be changed. On the other hand, the group which is for change and they advocate reforms, radical reforms, they argue that a state has power, the state has authority to intervene in personal laws, and a state can bring about laws for bringing about justice and equality. So these are very controversial issues. So what I have thought here, that I'll be giving you some definitions and I will try to clarify some confusion. As you know that my PhD is written on the same topic, on the culture, politics or the cultural history of All India Muslim Personal Law Board, submitted at Jawaharlal Nehru University. So let me begin with the very concept of Sharia. The All India Muslim Personal Law Board considers that Muslim personal law is based on Sharia, which literally means path, but here it connotes Islamic laws, and it is therefore immune from any human interventions. As I have told you that this is very standard argument of All India Muslim Personal Law Board, that Muslim personal law in India is based on Sharia, and Sharia in Arabic language it means path, and here it connotes divine Islamic laws. So the argument of All India Muslim Personal Law Board is that since it is based on it is based on Islamic laws, it is based on divine laws, so it is immune from human interventions, and no state has authority to intervene into it and change it. But is this positions correct? Correct. Such an argument is both based on the orthodox Islamic position that only God can make laws and human beings, be it the prophet or the sovereigns, cannot amend or change them. So there is also orthodox Islamic theory, political theory, and that theory says that laws are made by God, these are all divine, these are all revealed, and these laws are revealed to prophet. So the divine law, the laws of the God, cannot be changed even by the prophets, not to talk of any sovereigns, any rulers, any state or any human being. The role of the prophets and sovereign is limited to ensuring their implementation. So here All India Muslim Personal Law Board would be saying that the prophets and the rulers, their job is to see to it that human beings are and their lives are being governed by the divine laws. So even the kings cannot change it. So here the idea of the sovereignty of the God is very central in Islamic political theory. But contrary to these positions, I think the liberal and secular scholars argue that Indian Muslim Personal Law Board has evolved through century, and it has been enacted, codified, reformed through human interventions. These includes the institutions of the state such as judiciary and legislative body. So the group which is advocating for change, for reforms, they basically criticize All India Muslim Personal Law Board's positions, and they say no, it is not true. I think the Muslim personal law is something that has evolved through the period, and these these laws have been made by different enactments by the state, by the different institutions, and even by the rulings of the court. So the Muslim Personal Law Board is changing, and for bringing about more equality or giving justice to women, such reforms can be done. And I think by bringing about such change, the liberals and the progressive people argued that such reforms do not go against the very belief of Muslims, and in fact these changes or these reforms are not against the beliefs of the Muslims. So I have tried to put two different positions. I want to again summarize. One group of people, Muslim Personal Law Board, the orthodox Islamic scholars, they argue that no, Muslim Personal Law Board is based on Sharia. Sharia means path, but here Sharia means Islamic laws and divine laws. And since they are based on divine laws, and since God can only make laws, even the Prophet cannot change the law, so human intervention should not happen, and people, the believers, must be allowed and must be facilitated to lead their life as per their beliefs and as per the laws of the God. On the other hand, the secular and the progressive intelligentsia and the scholars, they argue that no, it is not a justified claim. Muslim Personal Law Board has been evolving over the centuries, and they have been made, codified, changed, amended through different agencies at different epochs. For example, a state has a very important role, judiciary, different enactments and different laws passed by the parliament or the legislative bodies. So these are very important source for evolutions of Muslim Personal Law Boards. That is why change is possible, reforms is possible, and any reform in Muslim Personal Law Board does not mean that it is against the religious belief of the minorities community. And by bringing about such change, I think their religious freedom is curtailed or attacked. So these are two different positions. But now, what is the real scene? I would like to add here, as per my research and my work, the very important thing is that there is a confusion about Sharia and Islamic laws and All India Muslim Personal Law, All India Muslim Personal Law. And I have argued in my work that before the establishment of the modern state, religious community was governed by their own religious laws and customary practices. So what has happened, that there has been a remarkable shift with the establishment of the modern state. Earlier, before the modern states, people belonging to different religious groups, different communities, different ethnic identities, they were largely governed by their own personal laws, their own customary laws. But with the establishment of the modern state, the process of unification or secularization, these happened, and increasingly people began to be governed by the territorial law. They were governed by secular law, they were governed by uniform law. So in the matter of only family, divorce, succession, will, charity, endowment, if you separate, if you take these domains out, I think be it Hindu or Muslims or Sikh, believers or non-believers, they are all increasingly, they were governed by the uniform laws. Only in the matter of, I'd say, personal laws, which are related to what I have said, the marriage, divorce, succession, in this matter, people are given choice, the people are given freedom to follow their customary laws and their personal laws. So, so to what extent Sharia was implemented and ignored was always decided by the political expediencies of the age, but soon after the establishment of the colonial state, a process of imposition of secular and uniform laws were introduced and the scope of Sharia was limited. So I have said this point again and again, that the Hindutva forces, they always argue that, okay, Muslims are being governed by Sharia's law and Hindus are governed by uniform law. That is not true. Muslims, Hindus, Sikhs, Isai, Parsi, they all are governed in their life up to 99% by the uniform law. It is only in the matter of personal laws where different personal laws are there and people are guided or people are governed by their customary law. For example, Islamic criminal laws, which were in place before the coming of the British rule, they were replaced with the criminal penal code, and the British colonial government did not abrogate everything which was related to Sharia. So, the laws related to family, marriage, divorce, inheritance, charities, these were kept, and colonized subjects continued to be governed by their religious law, their customary laws. The personal law, therefore, can be also defined as those parts of Sharia which were not abrogated or left untouched by the colonial government. This is also very important, that before the coming of the British Empire, people were largely governed by their customary law, their personal laws. But when the Britishers came, I think they did a lot of changes, a lot of reforms, and Islamic criminal laws were replaced with the criminal penal code, which is applicable to everybody. If I am a Hindu, if I commit a theft, I will be given the same amount of punishment if the same crime is committed by, let's say, a Muslim or a Sikh or a Christian, a believer or non-believer. So what is happening, that increasingly Sharia laws are being replaced with modern secular laws, and only those parts which were not reformed, these were not reformed, these were left untouched, because the colonial state realized that if they go and intervene in those domain, then it will be opposed by the people. In that domain, we could find the elements of personal law. So the personal laws, in another way we can say it, that it was those laws, those parts of the Sharia laws which were left untouched by the Britishers, but the large part of the Sharia laws were either replaced or either reformed, and Indians, irrespective of caste, community and gender and religion, they were increasingly and they were governed by the same set of rules that is known as Uniform Civil Code. That is why the whole debate that Uniform Civil Code be brought about, it will bring about development, it will bring about peace, it will bring about great revolutionary change in society. That is not true. It is a claim because our life is largely governed by Uniform Civil Code. Now, Dr. Zafrul Islam Khan, a well-known Islamic scholar, journalist, he has basically made it very clear that Sharia is one thing and fiqh, that is called jurisprudence, fiqh is another thing. So to understand the confusion about Muslim personal law and Sharia, we have to first differentiate what is Sharia and what is fiqh. Sometimes the confusion is created and fiqh is used for Sharia, and Sharia is seen as another name for the fiqh. That is not the true. The Sharia means Islamic laws and fiqh means jurisprudence, and also the personal laws. These are very different things. These are not the same. So according to Islamic scholar and author Zafrul Islam Khan, Sharia is a set of eternal basic beliefs based on divine revelations, and thus it is permanent, unchangeable. So Sharia is based on divine laws, it is permanent, and it is unchangeable. So friends, you know it, those who are a student of Islamic political theory and Islamic history, they know it, that the knowledge revealed to prophet, the knowledge revealed to the prophet is superior than the knowledge interpreted or gathered by the human mind. Islam and Islamic teaching, the Holy Quran, it has not stopped from human being to go and explore and do research and do reasoning, but the knowledge which is revealed, that is called wahi to prophet through the angels, that knowledge is superior than the knowledge which human mind can gather and acquire. So Dr. Jafrul Islam is saying here, Jafrul Islam Khan is saying here, that Sharia is divine laws, that is based on revelation, and that is unchangeable. On the other hand, fiqh is the result of human understanding, interpretation, codifications of those beliefs. So when we talk about fiqh, we should not say that it is based on, what should I say, it is based on divine laws, or it is unchangeable, or it is permanent. No. When the human minds go and interpret Sharia, when the human minds go and interpret Islamic laws, and when the human minds codify something, that is fiqh. So one important thing which you have to keep in mind, that fiqh has human interpretation. Fiqh has subjectivity. Fiqh has human role, human hand. That is why we should never say that fiqh is Sharia. No, fiqh is not Sharia. Sharia, Islamic laws, is divine, unchangeable. But when a human mind goes and interprets Sharia and codifies something, that is fiqh. For example, not many things are written in Quran. For example, the problem which we encounter, let's say in today's life, that is not there in the society, in the Holy Quran, not directly, not directly, it is not there directly. So when the society becomes very complex, advanced, then there was a problem for the scholars to interpret the laws, to interpret Islamic laws, and to codify things for the requirements of that period. For example, for that period. For example, if somebody asks me, should we use mobile phone or not? Should we get ourselves photographed or not? So these issues cannot be traced. These issues cannot be traced in Holy Quran. So a scholar, an eminent scholar of Islamic laws and Quran and Hadith, that persons will go and that persons will read Quran and Hadith, and in the light of Quran and Hadith, that persons will give some judgment about whether the problem which is emerging today is as per the Islamic laws, or it goes against the Islamic law. So fiqh is always related to human understanding, interpretations, codifications of those beliefs. So fiqh, in other words, based on reasoning, understanding. Reasoning is very important. Reasoning, human mind. So many people wrongly argue that Muslim personal law comes under Sharia. No, Muslim personal law do not come under Sharia. Contrary to this, as Dr. Jafrul Islam Khan has argued that it is Muslim personal law is within the domain of fiqh, and once Muslim personal law is accepted within the domain of fiqh, within the domain of jurisprudence, within the domain of human reasoning, a scope for multiple interpretation of Sharia opens up. As Dr. Khan argues, and I quote, contrary to the belief that Sharia is divine and permanent, the legal system of Muslim personal laws prevailing in India is based on the Sharia Application Act passed by the colonial rules. in 1937. So basically, Dr. Zafrul Islam Khan is saying that the positions of orthodox Islamic scholar, those who are associated with All India Muslim Personal Law Board, that Muslim personal law is nothing but another name of the Sharia. This is not correct. The Muslim personal law in colonial India emerged through different acts of parliament or acts of what should I say, legislative bodies, and also the judgments of the court. So it is the Muslim Personal Law Board. Muslim Personal is basically not based on Sharia, but it is based on fiqh, and fiqh means jurisprudence. And once we accept it, then there should not be any problem in accepting that there could be multiple interpretation. And when there could be multiple interpretation, this subject can be open for wider debate and discuss. That domain, Muslim personal law, will never be considered as okay, something very sacred that cannot be talked about. Anybody who has a very different opinion about Muslim personal law will be criticized. No, so what I have done so far, I have tried to differentiate. Sharia is different from fiqh. Sharia is based on divine law. It is unchangeable, it is permanent. But when human minds start interpreting Sharia, when the human minds codify laws, when the judgments of the court come, when several enactments and laws are passed by the legislative bodies, these laws, they basically form what is Muslim personal law. So Muslim personal law has emerged at one particular time in colonial period, and it was done through different codifications. So we should never call it that it is permanent, it cannot be changed, and it cannot be debated, and that allegation should not be made that anybody who is talking about reforms in Muslim personal law board is against Muslims community and against Islam. That is not true. See, if somebody is going to interpret it, if you do not agree with that interpretation, a person must criticize it and says that no, that goes against the interpretations of the holy book. So what has happened that in colonial time and also in the medieval time, there are several sources for the Islamic laws. The classic source for Islamic laws are Quran and Hadith, and also the customs, legislations, case law. And there is also an eminent legal scholar, A.A. Faizi, who has said that apart from Quran and Hadith, the Islamic laws are also having its source coming from legislations, case law, and the Hidayah or the guide translated by Hamilton is also important source for personal law, and Fatwa Alamgiri translated by Bailey, named after 17th century Mughal Emperor Alamgir Aurangzeb, is also very useful source for Muslim personal law. And so then there are several scholars, Tayyabzi, Mullah, Wilson, Amir Ali. They have also played great role in understanding and interpreting Muslim personal law. There are several acts like Waqf Act 1913, Sharia Act 1937, the Dissolution of Marriage, Muslim Marriage Act 1939, the Special Marriage Act 1954. They are also very important. The Succession Act, the Registration Act, the Limitations Act, the Stamp Acts are also important and relevant. So the friends, what I have done here, I have created a division, or I have underscored the division between Sharia and the fiqh. Sharia is based on divine laws. It is permanent, it is not changeable. But when human minds interpret and when the human minds use reasoning, that becomes fiqh. And fiqh is the source for Muslim personal law, and there are different sources for the fiqh and Muslim personal law which I have already talked about. There are several scholars who have played key role in making of the Muslim personal law. So the Muslim personal law should not be confused with Sharia. It is the very much act of the state, codifications, laws, and also customary laws, and also the judgment passed by the legislative body, the parliament, and also the rulings and verdict given by the court. So the friends, in my next video I'll be talking about the history of Islamic laws, how from the time of Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, till the colonial period or the post-colonial period, how these laws are changing and how laws are being interpreted by the legal scholars to meet the demand of the time. Thank you very much for being with me and listening to it. If you have any comments, criticism, suggestions, please send me. Thank you.